What's up? So today we're going to be building a DIY bedroom gym. So let me just give you a walkthrough of what I have. So if you walk in, I've moved everything over into the corner so I have the maximum amount of space. I was fortunate enough to find some flooring. Some lady was throwing it out down the road, so I grabbed that, and that'll kind of serve as like a platform that I can put the gym on. Obviously I'm going to straighten out these edges so that it looks a bit crisper, and I might even paint it. I got some black satin finish, so I'm not sure. I'm going to try it and see what it looks like on some cardboard first, and if I like it then I'll use it. But to walk you through the materials, just some basic stuff. Get yourself some gloves, you don't feel like cutting your hands. Some sandpaper. I'm going to sand down these 3x3s, which will serve as the main structure. You're going to need a handsaw, maybe a hammer, probably not, definitely a drill. You don't feel like drilling these in by hand, that would just be a complete nightmare. Some screws. So these ones are actually standard framing screws, and I'm going to use that just for the screws that I don't want to be necessarily exposed. So for drilling in the actual pull-up bar, I will put that down straight into the 3x3s. Now the actual structure is going to be held together by these screws. I think they called them decking screws, but if you look closely, see if I get that. If you look closely, you'll see that there's some kind of design on here that locks the screw into place. I think that's extreme redundancy. I'm going to drill pilot holes and then it's still going to be pulled together by the top of the screw, but just to be redundant, I did get the decking screws that will lock into place. Of course, later on that could be a nightmare to get apart, but we'll figure that out later. Some L brackets, or corner braces as they call them here. Those will just going to go between the joints, just some extra support. I know these obviously aren't heavy duty, but I just thought, you know, whatever I can put on here additionally will help. And then just some multi-purpose screws. I'm going to use those instead of the little dinky screws that it comes with here because they don't look like they'll do much of anything. I was also fortunate enough to find a stack of plates. I've got about 60 pounds here that I just found down the road in this basket, so I brought them back, cleaned them up. They're in kind of rough shape, like some of them are cracked and stuff, and I don't know what I'm going to use the cracked ones for. Maybe some kind of pulley system so I can do like rows, but I'll figure that out later. Found a mirror down the road, and I got 3 more packages of mirrors from IKEA. This is what the design will actually hopefully look like in the end. So I'm not sure if you can see it properly on the camera, but these here are the 3x3s, and then at the top I was trying to find floor flanges so that I could just screw in some nice sturdy pull-up bars, but I couldn't. And at the store they had this, and it's actually just a what do you call it, a handrail. So it's quite thick. You can see if I've got relatively big hands and I've put my hand around that I don't even really reach. So it's almost like a fat grip, which would be good for grip training. And this was actually on sale for 20 pounds, and it's 2.4 meters long, so definitely enough for at least 2 pull-up bars. Now, basically what I'm going to do here is there's going to be an 8 centimeter overlap on either side because 3 inches is roughly 8 centimeters. I'm going to drill 2 straight down screws, the golden ones I showed you before, straight down into the 3x3s. And then each one's going to be cut to 116 centimeters, which means I'll be left with about 20 centimeters or about 10 centimeters of garbage. I don't know what I'll do with that, but I can use it for something later, I'm sure. So there'll be 2 actual, so that's 1 pull-up bar, and then from here is another. Looking at the design, these 2 pull-up bars are going to run parallel to each other, so I can use one for pronated and supinated grips, your standard pull-ups, and then another one, if I want to use both of them as a neutral grip. Now the distance between here and here in a perfect world would be about 60 to 80 centimeters. But 60 to 80 centimeters will be difficult to cut, so I made it an easy 100 centimeters, and so I'm basically just building a box frame. On the frame, you're gonna have 2 pull-up bars, as I said, and then also using the wooden dowel that you can see there, the thinner wooden dowel. I'm going to somehow install them so that they can be put on and taken off whenever I want to put them on and take them off, and hopefully I can use those as dip bars as well as a rowing station. Here I'm going to build a hanging board. If anyone is familiar with rock climbing, you will know exactly what a hanging board is. If you don't, it's basically a method for training your forearms and finger strength. Okay, so without further ado, step one for me is to bring these outside and sand them down, because they are quite rough and I don't want my gym to look like that. So I'm going to take each of these outside and sand them down. Alright, so we're outside now. I've done a bit of sanding on these 3x3s, and now I've just kind of straightened them out so I can see if they're all about the same length. And I am making cuts at 210 centimeters, so just over 2 meters. I'm going to cut all 4 of these, and these are going to be the vertical. I'm pretty much building a frame that I'm going to put calisthenics bars on. So these are the vertical bars. So I'm going to get to cutting these now, and we'll catch up with you a bit later. I also want to add that if anybody thinks that they can't cut these on their own, I've developed a super scientific way of cutting. Not really at all. Basically, I've got 2 lawn chairs. This one's got a bag of dirt on it, and this one's got a bag of old cement. And there's my cut. So hopefully it works. Seems relatively sturdy. We'll give it a try. Let's see. At the end of the day, it's beautiful out here, so it's all good. Okay, so the first 4 beams have been cut. Took a bit longer than I thought. But the first 4, that's just to see if I'm straight. 2 10s are cut. This last one didn't cut as well nicely as I thought it would, but these 3 are relatively straight, so I'm happy with these 3. I'm going to go cut my 80s and 100s. I made a little change to the drawing here. So I was just thinking, if I left it at, standard door frames are about 85 centimeters wide. So if I made this 80, then I could, in theory, take it in and out of a room if I needed to. So these are actually going to be 80 centimeters, and this is going to stay 100, so it's going to be more of a rectangle than a square. And that also means that I could just cut these 240s into thirds, which would actually be easier, that I won't have so much left over. So one and a third will serve as the 4 braces. So I'm going to go ahead and measure these out to 80 centimeters into a third, and then get cut. And I only need 4 80s. I've done my 4 210s, and then I just have 2 100s left. And then after that, it's on to screwing it together. Alright, took a little break, back from lunch, and back to it. So far, we've got 4 80s. Cut. These are the 80 centimeters. These will be the bracings at the front and back, and also in the middle. And then 4 of the 210s. Kind of messed up the first cut, so I might have to redo this, or if I can fix it, I'll try and fix it, because the other 3 are good enough, and this one, well, it's kind of fucked, so we'll have to probably redo that one. But now I'm on to the 100 centimeter cut, which is here, and I'm gonna have a bit left over, 60 centimeters left, so I'm not sure what I'll do with that 60, but I've got a couple 340s here, which I can probably somehow make into parallettes if I can cut these and then use 2x4s as a base. I was fortunate enough to find these 2x4s just in the shed of the place that I live in. So parallettes to come soon, but now for a starter, we're just going to continue building the power rack that will serve as a pull-up, dip, and row station. Okay, so the basic elements of the frame are now complete. I'll just show you. So again, we still got the 4x210s, 4x8 80s, and the 2x100s. So if we go back to the drawing board, we've got the 4 210s, the vertical beams, and then there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 80s, and then 2 100s. I might need to come back and cut 2 more 100s, but I'm basically going to put it together and see how sturdy it is just like that. Because the 2 pull-up bars will actually also be screwed in, I think that they will be some sort of sturdy structure, I hope. And if they are, then we might not need to use the other 210s, and we could probably use the other 100s, and we could probably use the rest of this. I've still got a full 2.4 meter and probably another, I think that's 120 left. Probably still use that for something, probably for the parallettes that I plan on making. With this amount of wood we can build maybe even a high parallette bar for doing handstands and such. So now the next thing to do is to rub these off. I've got a brush that I'm going to rub them off because there's been wood falling all over them. I've already sanded down the edges a little bit, as you might be able to see there, but I want to take off all of the scrapes if I can off of all of these. And then I'm going to give them a first coat of paint, just a black matte finish, and hopefully I'll only have to do 2 coats. But while I'm waiting for the other coat to finish, I'm going to cut the pull-up bars. So these will be cut at 1/16, right? So they have the 8 centimeter overlay on either side. This one I haven't decided yet, but I'm pretty sure I'm just going to cut them both at 80, so that they can just essentially, I want to be able to take them on and off of here and put them on as I wish. So I tried getting one of these guys to drill into the wood, but it's pretty shit, to be honest. So don't buy these at a DIY store. So I'm going to make some kind of contraption, probably just like a V, and then the bar will just sit in between the V, so that I can put them on and take them off at any time. So yeah, right now I'm going to get to brushing those down and then putting the first coat of paint on, and then while the first coat of paint is drying, I will cut these guys. Alright, so as I said before, painting's now done. Not done, but just the first coat. I'm going to have to flip them all over and do the second coat. Well, not the second coat, but the second sides. 4 sides, so hopefully it doesn't take too long, but I'll give that maybe like 10 minutes to dry. Spray paint dries rather quick. And then I'm going to start to cut the actual pull-up bar. I think I said this before, but this is actually just a handrail that you would use to walk downstairs, and the bottom of it is flat, which will make it really easy to screw into, and it'll stay relatively steady. So I'm making cuts at 116 centimeters, so 1 cut here and 1 cut here, so I'll be left with this as just a throwaway. There's an 8 centimeter overlap on either end, and then I'll put 2 screws at about 2.5 centimeters apart straight down, and I really don't think that's going to move anywhere. I'm about 215 pounds, so I needed something that was going to be relatively steady. Alright, so I'll get cutting and check in with you later. I think that might have been the first time I actually cut something and it was straight. So here's the 2 pull-up bars. They're like literally identical in length, which is perfect. So as I said, there's going to be 100 centimeters of working pull-up bar, and then 8 centimeters on either side will get drilled in. So I'm going to go ahead and turn those over and then paint the other side, and then I'll come back and do the measurement on this side just to make sure that we're on the right track. Okay, so finally I've done the paint. Don't ever buy paint spray, just get paint and roll it on. So I went through 3 cans of fucking paint to get this stuff on, but it looks alright now, so hopefully it'll stay there. I'm going to let it dry, and it looks good to me. Now I'm going to drill my pilot holes through the pull-up bars. So as I said before, you've got an 8 centimeter overlay, because that's basically the width of a 3x3. And I'm gonna drill pilot holes at 2.6-ish centimeters apart. So 2.6 from here and 2.6 from here, straight down. And those will eventually have screws that go straight down into the 3x3. Okay, so we're back inside now. I've drilled all of the pilot holes for the basics of the frame. So I'll just show you where I'm going to screw in. So there's my pilot holes, 1 and 2. And what I've done is basically just set up the frame so that I can see that everything's straight before I drill in. And if I just drill in straight into there, I don't really know if that's going to be relatively straight. I know it's not going to be exactly perfect because my cuts weren't exactly perfect, but if I can get it as close as I need to perfect, then it should be fine. And what I've done here, I think I showed you the flooring before. I've straightened out the flooring, and I'm basically using the flooring as a reference point to see if the boards are actually square, and that way hopefully when I drill in everything stays rather level, because at the end of the day, if the structure's not level, then the whole thing's just going to fall. Well, it took quite a while, but the first frame is finally done. Basically, these bolts here, the ones that are locking, are awesome. But I also bought these ones, and as you might be able to see there, it just warped, whatever the fancy fucking word for it is. So you can't even use those now. I'll still try and use some of the other ones in different places, and hopefully I can scavenge them. But I'm gonna have to go back to the department store and get more of these. And my actual drill is so shit it wouldn't even drill these through. So this one's still a bit, I'll use that as like a hanger because it's through pretty far anyways. But the rest of them are nice and snug down. They've all been hand screwed in. So the first frame is done. I have to do 2 more of those and then just connect it, and then we're done. Alright, so the good news is the screws have kind of been going in. The drill that I have is not very good, so I've been having to hand screw them in, but I'll show you what we have so far. Basically, the 2 main portions of the frame are done and screwed in. We've got one that goes all the way to the end, and that's where a gymnastic ring will be hung from. And then this top one has a bar in the middle, which will later be used as a step up or an elevated spot to do pistol squats and that sort of stuff. So I just need to go to the store and get some more of these screws, because the ones that I bought at the department store, they just keep stripping and they're not going through. So I'll have to buy more of these ones and then screw them in here, there, and then stand it up and screw the other ones in, and we're pretty much done. Alright, so couldn't record the last bit, but my roommate came and helped me put up the base frame and screw in the 2 pull-up bars that actually hold most of it together. So without further ado, here's the gym. So you'll remember what you saw in the original picture was this frame, and this was the first frame that I put up, and then this was the second frame that was being done that was on top. So those 2 were screwed together, and then this frame was put up last, and I even put a little bit of finger crimps to work, just some finger strength for climbing. It's not high enough that I hang off of it, but I put a little pillow down here, and then I just do some static stuff, and it really does help with blood flow, recovery, that kind of stuff. We've got a pull-up bar up here and another one over there, so I can do neutral grip stuff. This bar here works quite well for straight bar dips, as well as you can hang a band from it, and it's good for doing V-sit exercises. or L-sit exercises, so you can put your legs in there and your hands down here and practice it. Okay, I also did build some homemade parallettes. Actually, a lot easier than I thought. I just cut some blocks and then stuck a wooden dowel on the top and screwed it in. And it's very, very sturdy. It's not going anywhere, and it's the perfect size, really. I found that down the road. What a find. It's got nearly the perfect angle for like a 1-inch lift that you would see in powerlifting shoes. So it's really good for doing some single leg exercises where, you know, especially the eccentric loading, you can do some great single leg exercises. These are just some 3x3 cuts that I had left over, and they work very, very well for basic strength exercises, even doing planking with your hands on the top because it's a little bit unstable. Here's all the mirrors that I set up. So I've got some mirrors on the ground so I can do some V-sit stuff. Then I've got a mirror up there that works in conjunction with this mirror, so I can do things sideways. And this one is used for the pull-ups and for anything I'm doing here. And then I've got my workout program up on a whiteboard, a diagram of the human body, just because why not? And the beautiful DIY home gym. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions about the home gym, be sure to leave it in the comments below, and like and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.